this is where my phone took me to.
Okay.
This is it. Hi, Colonel. I'm Jeff.
Jeff Barry.
Pleasure to meet you. My pop.
Hi, sir.
Oh, how are you?
How do you do? Nice to meet you.
This is Colorado Highway Patrol. Usually when you see this kind of thing, you got those things in your rear view mirror, and then this guy with these kind of glasses. Hey, you know why I pulled you over? Well, today we're here at Colorado Highway Patrol. Colonel Bratt is going to take us for a ride in
It's 1970 Plymouth Fury I.
1970 Plymouth Fury I. And it's got a legit 383. Can't call that a stroker because it's factory 383, not a 350 block and a 400 crank. This is so awesome. Listen to that Mopar. Come on.
Flashlight you see there?
Yeah.
So this briefcase and that flashlight were used by the trooper who drove this car in 1970.
Oh, no way. That's fantastic. Very good. It can't be the original upholstery.
Most of this interior is original, but we'll talk about the car that isn't original is the dash pad and the upholstery on these front seats. Because the front seat had a little tear and I couldn't find anything to match, so we had to redo the seats. But you look at these rubber floor mats and all those are vintage 1970. That's what the car was born with.
Unbelievable. I love that briefcase. You want to sit in the front, Pop?
I'll sit back.
You're gonna sit. Can you fit in back?
I'll squeeze.
All right. Got my pop sitting in the back. We're gonna ride shotgun. Come on.
Perfect. Water roll.
Now it's kind of unusual for you there in the back seat because you notice this is a two-door.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of cities probably use four doors, but highway patrols use two doors. And there weren't cages at the time, like you see in modern police cars. So no one ever sat in the back seat. So if you arrested somebody, they sat in the front seat next to you because that was safer for the officer.
Oh wow.
So the back seat rarely got used unless you were just going to some event and you had some other passengers with you. Everybody got a seatbelt on?
I will soon. Let me turn this off. Get my belt ready to roll.
So Jeff, what you see in this car, this is exactly the way it would have looked like in 1970 for that for the trooper driving the car. Things are original to the car, as I said earlier. So this flashlight you see here, this was actually the flashlight used by the trooper who drove this car. So a little bit of the story behind this before we go on a ride is this is one of 55 cars that the Colorado State Patrol bought in 1970.
Okay.
50 of them were white like this, they were marked cars, and 5 others were different colors and they become unmarked cars. But this car was assigned to a trooper named Lou Bachman. It served its whole time down in the Saguache Valley.
Where's that?
So that's down by Alamosa,
Okay.
North.
Yeah.
So he drove the car, and when the car was miled out and sold at auction, he bought the car.
Oh, very cool.
And it became their family car.
Now, for miled out, how many miles for it to be miled out?
So at this point right now, the car has 94,000 miles on it.
Oh, that's it. I thought it was 900. Okay, 94,000.
94,280. But typically is about 4 years and 80,000 miles. Probably a little earlier on this car just by the mileage it has on it now. But it became their family car. They took it on trips. One kid went away to college with it. Another, we have pictures of one of the daughters used it in their wedding.
No way!
So the cans tied to the back and the whole bit.
With the flashers on it still even?
No, of course, that was all off at that point. It's just a white Fury. Still had the spotlights, but that was it. But then the brakes went out on it, and Lou couldn't fix it, so they parked it in a barn. And you talk about a barn find.
And drum brakes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So this truly sat in a barn, really a lean-to shed, for 2 decades. And then the Bachmans, they saw a story that the news did about one of the Camaros that we'll show you later, and they realized that was the place for their car to come back to the patrol. So they donated this car back to us.
Very cool.
And then from that point, this car went through a complete nut and bolt restoration, everything coming off and everything going back on.
And you were part of that.
Yeah, so there's about 5 of us that enjoy working on cars, so we do it in our free time. And we did most of the work. What we didn't do on this car was the paint and body. Fortunately, the body was in great shape. It's been in Colorado pretty much its entire life, so there wasn't a lot of rust. But, you know, we look for partners, too. It doesn't cost us a lot because, again, we're the labor, and labor is the most expensive part.
Exactly.
But on this car particularly, I had the opportunity one night at an event to sit down and talk to Mr. Haggerty from Haggerty Insurance.
Okay, yeah.
And we were talking about cars as I do, because I'm a car guy. And this car came up, and he said, I want to be a part of the project. So Haggerty Insurance actually paid to paint the car.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then Transwest Auto Body, who typically is doing work on semi-trucks that have been wrecked, is the place that painted it.
Okay.
They also painted the Ford Mustang that we'll talk about.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
So some partnerships that happened there.
That's great.
Back to the car. What you see here is exactly like it would have looked like back in 1970. So this is the radio. You see here, it's actually a pretty rare unit. It's actually made just for the Colorado State Patrol back there in the day. And then underneath here, these are the controls for the lights and the sirens. And all of that stuff still works.
Very cool.
I will tell you that it's kind of amazing how people saw the lights back in the day, because they're not particularly bright.
Oh, okay.
The red spotlight.
And both red, because now it's red and blue.
Red and blue. So for a long time, it was just these two red ones. And then we went to a red and blue bubble just like this. And then we transitioned to the modern light bar that you see today.
When was that transition?
So that was in the 80s that we went to the red and blue.
Yeah, okay.
And then early 90s when we probably went to the other light bars.
Okay. Heck yeah. Well, this thing's a pussycat.
You know, it really is amazing.
Or at least it sounds like a pussycat.
You drive the car, and it's a different world. And you go, man, I can't imagine driving it in a law enforcement capacity today. But then you realize all the cars back in 1970 were like this.
Yeah, and so a 727 transmission?
Yes.
It is, okay.
The 383 was still running when we got it. But unfortunately, the timing chain was so loose, it was missing pretty badly. So the motor's been rebuilt. The transmission was rebuilt. And again, about 90% of the car is still, we'll take a look underneath the hood, it still is the way it came from Detroit.
And rebuilt to stock? It's not souped up with a big cam or anything?
No.
Okay. Oh, this is a cream puff. Wow. What do you think, Pop?
I think this is awesome. I love it.
And yeah, talk about a boat. When we were following you, that's what Pop even said. This thing is big.
There's a little bit of room for stuff in the trunk.
Just a bit. Boy, and the suspension, nice and comfy. Boy, and floaty.
Yeah. That's what I say. It's hard to compare it to a modern car.
At all. What?
But the suspension it's all new parts. Vintage parts, but still all new parts. So it's as tight as it ever was back in the day.
Literally taking a step back in time. $35 miles per hour, 94,000 miles. Does the radio still work?
So the radio doesn't work, and the reason of that is because the frequencies that this radio would have used back in 1970 were no longer legal for us to use.
Okay.
Time has moved on.
That stinks. Kind of the FCC band is my guess.
Yeah, so now of course we use the ultra high frequency,
okay.
800 radios. So not even the same system.
My God, this suspension is unbelievable.
So unfortunately, Lou Bachman, the trooper who bought this and gave it back to us, he passed away this last year.
Oh no!
But we got it done in time. That when this car was all done, the first trip it took was back down to the Swatch, and Lou went for a ride and remembered.
Oh, he did. Awesome.
Remember the car that he used to have. We're still in touch with the family and stay in close contact with them. And we talk about how in the Colorado State Patrol, it's our family protecting yours.
Nice.
And this is a great reminder of how that part of our family stays to be our family even after people retire and move on.
So if you had the choice to drive this to work or one of the new the new Cruisers they're Dodge?
Well, so we've had Dodge for quite a while again now. Dodge Chargers. With Dodge getting rid of the Chargers, and particularly the all-wheel drive Hemi-powered Chargers that we were using, we're transitioning to the Dodge Durango.
Oh,
It still
okay.
gives us the Hemi power plant and the all-wheel drive.
Okay.
Century brings to us, or the next decade, I should say, in terms of electric vehicles and how that's going to work for patrol vehicles.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just going to kind of bring that up, the electric stuff.
So we're already testing electric vehicles, some of our administrative vehicles. We've bought some of the Ford Mustangs.
Okay.
We have a lot of the hybrids. And then we're looking at getting some of the Chevy pickup trucks for some of our members that don't do the actual patrolling work, but it gives us an opportunity to see how that's going to work and what changes we need to make before it's necessary to do it on a really big scale.
Because I know nationwide, or at least statewide in California, there's no way, they don't have the infrastructure for it. Can't even turn on the AC in the summertime. How can you charge your vehicle?
Well, that's some of the challenges we're going to figure out.
Exactly. All right. Okay, car 174.
So back in the day, that was also your radio call sign.
Oh, okay.
So
like the car 54, where are you?
Right. This door panel and this number, this is 1970 right here. This has never changed. So you can see there's a little discoloration when you look at a few things, but it's the value of keeping the original like that is so worth it. So.
Exactly. I love that. See if you can get out of here, Pop.
Oh, there's the...
The Plymouth Fury. 383 cubic inches of Fury. From that to the 4th gen, right?
Right. So this is the 4th generation Camaro. This is a 2002. This car actually served its life up in Glenwood Springs.
Oh, okay.
So mountain passes,
Yeah.
you name it, this has been through it. This car, when it was done, we actually didn't sell. So we held on to it. So the way you see this car right here today is the way it was when it came off the road.
Very cool. And why didn't you sell this one?
Because at that point we were starting to talk about having a historic fleet and the ability to do some things with these cars and make a difference. So we were able to hold on to it.
Very cool. And what your Mustang is, a little Fox body?
1990 Fox body Mustang. This car and all the cars we're talking about actually were state patrol cars that served on the road. So this car served down in Durango, got sold at auction, went to a lot of different places, but we actually ended up hauling it back from across the country. It was about to be turned into a drag race car.
Really?
So when we got it, the transmission was sitting in the trunk. The motor was just held in by a couple of bolts, and we've gone through this car. We're still in the process a little bit, as you'll see on the inside. But this car has come from basically being a shell to back to being a running car.
Nice. Oh, manual.
Yep, these cars are all the 5-speed manuals.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, why would I know that? There you go.
So it's getting pretty close to being done. Got to the point where we put some lights on it, put the graphics on it, and just some of the final finishing details.
Very nice. And just going back, it's not on the road, it'll go in the museum.
All these cars go in the museum. We'll talk about it when we're not out in the wind, but we'll talk about what we do with some of the cars for you.
Oh, awesome.
So this here is one of the ones that you remember?
Yeah, well, I grew up when I got my license in the mid-'80s, and these were, my mom taught in Ellicott, Colorado, and I remember these things were the nemesis of... Okay, so this is an automatic.
It is. So a police agency could order these in one of two ways. You can get them with a 5-speed, but if you got the 5-speed, then you got the 305.
Oh,
if you
okay.
wanted the 350 tune port, then you had to get it with the automatic.
Okay.
And that's the way we bought our cars.
Yeah, you don't want the 305, do you mind?
No.
Okay. 220,000 miles on the clock. All right, what is this thing?
So that's actually a radar,
Oh, that is? Okay.
and that's vintage to the right era for the car.
Look at that. RS 25th anniversary.
So this particular car was bought by a guy who lived down in Tennessee, and when he got ready to sell the car, he knew about us, he knew about the patrol. He actually drove this car all the way back so he could hand the keys over to us personally.
Oh, that's awesome. So cool. And the bubble gum
This
machine.
one?
Heck yeah. You never asked.
We might have to hand the camera to your dad for a sec.
Okay.
I've been started up.
Oh, come on. Thing fires right up. And that's the radar. That's the radar. It's so cool. Oh wait, I get to drive?
Yeah. Just go for a little ride.
All right, we'll be back in a bit.
I'll wait for you.
All right.
Have fun.
Here you go.
All right, let me, all right, now we're gonna go for a little ride. Thank you, sir. All right, reverse. Just gotta watch out for the old station wagon. I still can't get over that, the Plymouth. And I know it's a cliche, but that thing's a cream puff.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that car.
You really should be. And I learned about that car. Did you drive it? My pop ripped an article, I think it was out of the Denver Post, about Eisenhower Tunnel turning 50, the 50th anniversary of Eisenhower Johnson tunnels. And you guys did some sort of thing with that car.
We did. So we'll show you inside the 1935 Ford.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the 1935 Ford was the first car to drive through the tunnel when it opened.
Oh, no way.
Yes. So when they celebrated the 50th anniversary, we wanted to kind of recreate that. So we did it with the 1970
Oh, that's
Fury.
awesome. Okay.
I didn't drive it. It was actually driven by one of the sergeants, one of the guys who helps build these cars.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's so cool. So the 35 was the original one that drove through it.
It was.
Okay.
Now the 35 Ford, and we'll show it to you, isn't an original state patrol car. I couldn't honestly, if someone showed me one and told me it was one of ours, there's no way I could tell you it was or wasn't at this point, because back then cars were just cars that they turned into a police car.
Okay.
There was nothing special about them. But that car was actually purchased back in 1970 and restored. So we'll talk about that.
Because nowadays, you order them specifically from Ford, Dodge, Chevy as a police package, right?
We do. The manufacturer actually builds a police package, and then of course that's the way we order them for the most part. There's some vehicles like our bigger trucks and things like that they offers a special service, not a pursuit rated vehicle.
Okay.
But that's just for hazmat trucks and things like that. Most all of the fleet is a regular police package vehicle offered by the manufacturer.
Now, is it me? Am I jaded and calloused, or is this kind of gutless?
You got to remember, you're a little jaded by what a modern car is.
Okay.
Right? So back in the day, this car had less than 300 horsepower, but that was a big deal in 1992.
Oh, okay. Wait, this is 92?
This is a 92.
Oh, okay. I thought it was older.
So, for the horsepower it has, although I tell you, up at the drag strip, we do a lot of take it to the track events.
Yeah. Vandermeer.
So with a new Dodge Charger that we have, I can beat the new Dodge Charger to about 3/4 of the way down the track with this car.
This?
Because it's so fast off the line and it weighs a lot less. But by the end of the track, the Dodge Charger's coming around me.
Oh, yeah, okay. I figured that Charger would eat you the whole way. What amazes me is that those new C8 Corvettes, mid-engine, just as kind of a small block, but the Hellcats, which are built for the straight line quarter mile, the C8s are faster.
It's all traction.
But the light war, it doesn't make sense to me, because the Hellcats are built for 1340 quarter mile period. Yet that little sports car is faster. Yeah, this is amazing.
What's great about these cars is that you don't, if you roll down the window of a modern car, it sounds like that Huey helicopter's taking off next to you.
Yeah.
You can roll down the window of this car, put your arm out the window, and then cruise around a patrol, and it's perfectly quiet.
That's awesome.
The way it's designed, it's great.
Does that come up?
It does. Lift it up.
Breaker 19 for the Bandit. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
We would be on the other side of that radio.
I know. My pop, he hadn't seen it for a while, so we watched it last year at one point. You got to love Buford T. Justice. How long have you been with the patrol?
So I joined the Colorado State Patrol in 1996.
Oh, okay. So this car's already almost retired by the time you came on.
It would have been, yeah. But I worked for another agency before I worked for the patrol.
Oh.
So much like you, though, I saw these cars out on the road and go, man, those are cool. I'd like to drive one of those.
Now, what is it true? There was a rumor you guys had Dodge Stealths.
No, never,
Okay.
never actually drove any of those.
Okay. Because I remember the Ellicott kids would say, yeah, they have black Dodge Stealths. It's like, no way. Yeah, this is amazing. Now, how come this has so many more miles on it than the Fury? Because I thought you said that 20,000 a year ish, and they're retired at 80.
And let's leave it right here so we can we'll
Okay.
pull the other car in.
Right here?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is great. Well, the biggest reason, of course, we get rid of the car a certain number of miles. But then between the time that we got rid of it,
Oh, here, I'll take that. Thanks.
between the time that we got rid of it and we got it back, it had different owners.
Okay.
So what you're talking about then is all the miles that those other owners put on this car
Okay.
in between.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you. I just got to drive a Colorado Highway Patrol Camaro. So cool. 2-port injection, 350 with my guess a 700 R4.
Yes.
Okay. With the IROC wheels. I mean, those are the iconic wheels.
It'd be nice to have them.
Yeah, right.
This is kind of the car side of our museum. Obviously right now it's a little bit empty because a lot of the cars are outside that we were showing and went for rides in. This is a 1991 Camaro, much like what you drove just a year earlier. And you can kind of see the picture board with the story about that. This car actually came back to us, bought it off of Craigslist.
No way.
A gentleman called me and said, hey, I was looking at buying this car and wanted to know if we thought it was a real Colorado State Patrol car, so we did some checking and it was. He decided not to buy it, so we got in contact with the person who had it, and we bought it down in Colorado Springs. It took a lot of work. The one picture you see there, it sat in a field, and the rabbits had gotten into the engine bay, of course, and started eating stuff up. And then some wild dogs that knew rabbits were in there, so then they tried getting to the rabbits and chewed up the fenders and wheel wells and did a lot. And then they changed it so it didn't look like the RS bodywork anymore. It had a Z28 rear hatch on it. But we got it running, got all the different bodywork and stuff done on it. And this car looks exactly like it did back in 1991 when it was rolling down the road.
So when it got miled out, you auctioned it off?
We did.
They bought it, and then you guys found it and bought it back?
Yeah, I don't know the history of this car in between it getting sold and getting it back. The one you drove has a pretty interesting story. I told you that when it came back to us, the current owner at the time actually drove it all the way back here to hand the keys off.
Oh yeah, from
personally.
Tennessee.
The owner before that, the first person to buy it from us was an airplane pilot. And when he bought that car, he actually put nitrous on it.
Oh.
He did a bunch of quarter-mile passes and used it as a drag race car for himself. And hopefully he did all that on the track and not on the street.
Exactly.
But from that, it went down and drove all over the place. Like you saw, it has 200,000 miles on it. And then came back to us. And both of these two cars, fortunately, cosmetic restoration for the most part. We didn't have to take them apart nearly as much as we did the Fury or some of the other cars we're working on.
So both Camaros, original engines, transmissions, just rebuilt.
They are.
Awesome.
Yeah, both of the two white Camaros actually got done in my garage at home.
No way.
And then
That's so cool.
since that, we now have a place for one of our offices where we can work on the cars, and that's where we work on them now. So the Fury came apart at that place, and we have a lift there we can use, so we have a little more tools and a little more access. So we did that one there. And right now we have a 1963 Ford that we drove back from Wisconsin. That was one of our cars. And that car is well on its way to joining the historic fleet here. And being
Interesting
part
how
of that.
they seem to leave the state.
Yeah, well, you know, people buy the cars, and back then people traveled, and that's how they took the car with them. So,
So
we're
they
just
bought
excited
actually
they
to
come
use
back.
and not to show off, but to you. Wait, is that?
That's the 1935 Ford that we talked about earlier. That was the first car through the Eisenhower Johnson Memorial Tunnel.
Okay. For the first car through the Eisenhower Memorial Tunnel.
Amazing.
That's pretty cool.
And why was that?
Why was it the first car?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. Other than, at the time we were actually part of CDOT. Now we're part of the Department of Public Safety, but we were part of CDOT, and I think they felt that was a great way to kind of do the event. This car was actually purchased out of Grand Junction for $700. And that was, we had 700 people in the patrol at the time, and every person pitched in $1 to buy this car. And then it's been restored twice since the original purchase. But this is exactly how the car would have looked in 1935. see a picture of one over there with the original class. That they either went out driving one of these or they went out on an Indian motorcycle. And
An Indian?
I don't know if you're a motorcycle rider. I am. I was a motor officer for a lot of years. But it's incredible to me to think about someone just going out on a motorcycle in 1935 on the sort of roads that were in the state at that time. And that was how they patrolled the state.
Indian 4? Indian twin?
Twin.
Twin, okay. Either way.
In fact,
Indian...
we have a die-cast replica of one. But what you see here is the motorcycle they would have been riding on back in the time.
Yeah, and roads in 35, I can't.
Right.
I can't fathom.
Without a helmet, with just a soft hat.
Without suspension. I mean,
Right,
your
hardtails
back,
for the
your
most part.
kidney, your, yeah.
And then these two motorcycles that you see here, Harleys we rode for a number of years. The B&W represents the current modern motorcycle that we currently patrol on.
Okay. And why the switch from Harley to BMW? Boy, that is a beast.
It's bigger, but it's actually more comfortable. We feel it's safer.
Okay.
Particularly at the time we made the switch, BMW had an ABS that was superior.
Okay, anti-lock brakes.
The package on it is much superior. And in this day and age, the ability for people to see us is hugely important. Not only to move over, get out of the way, but so they don't run into us. You might have saw a story that was on the news here last summer about one of these BMW motorcycles that got run over on a traffic stop. I said, well, why do you have these cars? What's the purpose? Why spend money on them? And really it's twofold. We use all of these cars, like the one you drove, as part of our education program.
Okay.
So they go to car shows, they go to different events. And the very fact of the matter is it opens the doors. It lets people start talking to us, realize we're just a normal person, just like they are. A lot of us are car people, just like they are. But allows us to start talking about the safety message, proper driving, wearing seatbelts, not drinking and driving, not driving distracted, move over when you see the emergency lights. All those things are important for traffic safety. And then we're just talking to person, just like you and I are here today. So that's hugely important. That's what we use the cars for a lot. The other thing we use everything you see here in the museum for a lot is, so on the very first day of a new academy class, they come here, they start here.
Really?
This organization's been in place since 1935.
Okay.
Okay. When a new person comes in the door and wants to become a state trooper, it's hugely important to us. They understand all the honor, all the duty, and all the respect that's been with this organization since 1935, originally called the Colorado Courtesy Patrol. And we start them out on the right path for that. So as they go through their career, while we expect them to do their job, be a law enforcement officer, we expect that same courtesy and professionalism. And we started here by talking about all the people who came before them, so they realize that history.
Very cool. So every highway patrol class, their first day starts here.
Since we opened the museum.
That's
yes.
very cool. I like that a lot.
And
give a little bit of history.
One other piece of history. So you're at Camp George West right now.
Camp George, okay.
Military camp from the very beginning. But
the rock buildings.
Yes.
Okay.
So all of this that you see here was all part of the military camp. But until recently, it was also the home of a DOC correctional facility. And that was actually a great partnership for us in the patrol, because we had inmates who actually worked at our facility. They did the kitchen staff, janitorial things, but it was a huge benefit for both them and us. Unfortunately, that's closed down, they moved out, some changes are going on. But one of the things I wanted to point out is we had the opportunity to interact with offenders. And not only did our new cadets learn to treat offenders, again, with professionalism, but those offenders learned that the cops were decent people.
You're real people. Just,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and they have talent. And it's amazing a lot of the talent they had. One of the things I want to point out to you is if you see that picture right above the 35 Ford, that was actually painted by one of the inmates who worked here at the camp of this car for us.
Very cool. Sorry.
So you notice the Welcome to Colorado,
I love
Colorado sign.
Yeah.
So that's actually an official one. You know, if you look on the internet, there's only so many of them. Well, you can actually add one to that, because that truly is the exact size, made by the same sign shop.
Oh, it is? Okay.
That was made by CDOT to put here in the museum, because that sign is so iconic for the state of Colorado. And then right below it, you'll see in the framed emblem. So those are all the different door badges that the state patrols have on our doors over the years.
Okay. So we.
And they go in order. So right now you're looking at the first door badge we put on the cars when it changed over from the courtesy patrol.
I like the wings. That's on the Fury, right? The wings?
Mm-hmm. And then that was done on the 75th anniversary, special edition for us.
80th anniversary. Yeah, I like the wings. Hear that? Stay focused, stay alert, arrive alive.
So this is kind of a special car that is a new project for us we're working on. So this was a patrol car. It's a 1997 Chevy Camaro B4C, if you didn't notice. B4C is the designation that Chevy put out for police cars. So it wasn't actually called a Z28 or an RS, even though it might have had that stuff on it. Chevy called them a B4C.
So that's the RPO code, like the NPP fuel mode exhaust. BRC is the police package.
That's it.
Okay.
So if you want to know if a Camaro you're looking at was ever one of those, you can actually look at the door tag and you can see that code. But this car, so it served some time on the road. Then it became an Alive at 25 and then a Great Car Force, which were some promotional things. Then it actually became a track car. It was used by the driving instructor up there, and students would chase it around the track as they learned how to drive in emergency vehicle operations. Kind of got torn up a little bit doing that. Yeah, we rescued it. So this car is going back to its life now as a promotional vehicle. So what you'll see this car is you'll see it at Bandamere, take it to the track events.
I thought you sent me a picture of this at Bandamere, right?
What you're also going to see is you're going to see this car. We're going to do some SCCA Pro Solo stuff with it.
Oh!
So we want to try and get in touch with that crowd as well. But talk to them about, hey, go out and have a lot of fun with your car, but do it safely, do it in the appropriate place. Do it on the track, don't do it on the street where we're seeing so much aggressive driving that's leading to fatalities.
Like in Loveland, Colorado, with the good guys, come on down for the autocross.
Exactly.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
We'll be there with this car.
Oh, that'll be awesome. We'll see you there.
So you get a chance to drive your time against ours and see how you do.
Oh yeah, I'll be much slower. I have a station wagon, but who cares? It'll be fun. It'll be safe, and it'll be in a closed environment off of public roads up there at the Loveland Event Center.
And the hood says it all, you know? Meet us at the track or meet us on the street.
That's it. Yeah, that's where I don't want to meet you. Exactly. Do you know why I pulled you over? Oh, and there you go, Bandamere. With the highest NHRA track in North America.
So that's the 4th gen Camaro that you saw sitting outside.
Oh, I thought that was this one inside. This one outside. Awesome. Looks like next to my brother's Audi.
So you asked about open to the public. It's not actually like open to the public all the time. Now on Thursdays, our alumni opens it up for people who can come in and want to walk around and see it. Other than that, it's just for special events. We host car clubs. We've done a Haggerty Cars and Coffee here, for example. The Vintage Ford Club did one of their meets here. Again, it's an opportunity for us to share our message and talk to people who love cars just like we do.
Have you been to the Shelby Museum in Boulder?
Yeah, actually I know one of the guys who was up there part of that.
That place is nuts. If you've never been to the Shelby Museum in Boulder, go right now. Yeah, this place is fantastic.
The remote control cars you see over there. So those are actually another device we would use at different events. So there's actually a headset, and they are a complete remote control car. So you can drive them around the crowds, and you can interact with the kids, and you can be off around the corner, and you can talk to the kids and have conversations with them right through the car and present your safety message and get them engaged, and they love talking to the cars.
Very cool. Why is it seems to me, I lived in California for a bunch of years. I get to Colorado and it seems people park in the left lane and then you try to go to the right lane to pass them and then they accelerate. It seems like a Colorado thing.
I don't know, that's a Colorado thing. I think you see that in every state, and that's one of the things, we try and preach. It's courtesy. It's the old rules of the road that we all used to follow that seem to have gotten forgotten a little bit.
I don't want to blame social media, but nobody has respect for anyone anymore. It's like slower traffic, keep right, and what is it, keep right except to pass.
Right. At the same time, we expect people to do the speed limit regardless of what lane they're in.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's a huge thing too. Just because the left lane is clear doesn't mean that's your ticket to do 90.
Exactly.
One of the cars that we're working on, in fact, if you go down to the Denver Auto Show, you'll see it there right now. Encourage people to go. But we're putting some new specialty cars out on the road. One of those is a brand new Dodge Challenger. It's with the TA package, and you'll see all the graphics on it. But it's all about aggressive driving and the fact that 75 miles an hour is the maximum speed limit in the state, and not to exceed that. We need to get people back to driving safely and continue to save lives. Last year we saw the highest rate of fatalities that we've had historically, and we need to change that.
Wait, last year?
Yes.
Why do you think? That doesn't make any sense to me.
We saw a huge change in driving behavior after COVID, when people had basically wide open roadways and less enforcement. and the driving behavior changed, and we lost some of that voluntary compliance that we always strive for. So now we're going back, we're working again towards that voluntary compliance, because that's really what we want. We don't want to stop anybody, we don't want to have to give tickets. That's always the last resort for us. But obviously we do if we need to. But we need to get people back to obeying those basic traffic laws that you talked about, because they're there for a reason. That's how we keep people safe. I mean, our mission is about making sure that our families, your families, everyone gets back home safe at the end of the day. And we're going to continue to do that and strive for that every day.
I love that. Our family protecting your family. I like that a lot. I like that. Thank you.
This class here is the 1937 class. And here you see a 1935 Ford, just like what you're seeing over there. Again, when you got out of the class, you either got one of these or you got one of the Indian motorcycles. And here you see the very first class with the Indian motorcycles, the 35 Fords are behind it. But just amazing to think that that's what they went out there and drove back then.
There, the stone building. That's still here, isn't it?
That's the very same building that we passed.
Unbelievable. So cool. Right here, Golden, Colorado. Our family protecting yours.
So Jeff, you're gonna hear us talk about family a lot.
Yeah, I
this
like
side
that.
in here is about the people side of the patrol and about the people side of being a state trooper. So one of the things you see up here on both sides of the wall is there's a hat from every state law enforcement agency. And being a trooper is more than just being a Colorado State Trooper. It's a family nationwide. But what you'll see in this room is a lot of the stuff that goes to the individual work that these people do. We talk about enforcement. We talked about that out in the other room. But education is a huge part of that for us. I talked about voluntary compliance.
Yeah.
So this is a really cool, I'll shut this door so you get a little bit better picture. But this is a photo of Patrolman Al Coffrin. So back between 1973 and 1976, he had a program that he did as far as traffic safety with kids. Now, a lot of people who see this may not remember Blinky the Clown, but I certainly do. Maybe you do. I know your dad does. But he actually would show up on the Blinky the Clown show a lot, and down here you see a picture of him and Blinky. But what Al would do is he dressed up in that costume you see there in the picture, and he would do school presentations. And he would go in and he would talk about traffic safety and crosswalks and bicycle safety to elementary age kids. And then about halfway through the presentation, he would get a phone call from the chief of the State Patrol. So then he would leave, go out, change into his trooper uniform, and he would come back into the class and talk to kids about how, as long as you try, you can become anything you want to be. So that was his presentation, and that was Ricky the Rookie.
Oh, that's awesome.
A couple of things that are really cool here is that we talk about education again. We've been doing education since the very beginning. So as I said, we started in 1935. So I'll let you look at this one and this one. So back in the 30s, there weren't movies, there weren't slide projectors, there weren't even the overhead projectors. We used flip charts. So this flip chart from 1939 talks about traffic safety, and when they would go in and give a traffic safety message, they would turn the pages of the flip chart as they talked about their message. Same thing over here, this one from 1940. And the fact that they still exist and we have them is really an incredible thing.
It really is, yeah. Almost reminds me of like the reefer madness.
Right. Enforcement, the other part of that E that we talked about here, show you the different tickets. So over here is what tickets started as, and we've grown to this big full page that you see over here now. Things are a little bit different there as well.
From the little hold order. Wow, yeah.
We talked about how the 1970 Fury came back to us because that family donated it back.
Yeah.
And so much of what you see in here has actually come back from families that the members retired, they've since passed on, and their families have donated some stuff back. So one of the things we had was this trophy. It was the governor's trophy. It was in memory of Albert Acorn, who was killed in the line of duty. It's neat to have the trophy, but then a couple months back, a family brought in these pictures of their loved one who's since passed, holding the trophy. He won it. And as you see, that's the very same trophy that we have here today.
Very cool. So is that like the Heisman? It goes with the guy for a year, or does it? Okay, very cool. And this reminds me, when we were in the Fury, I saw a jacket in the back, and it looked like not the Clint Eastwood, but the Dirty Harry from The Enforcer, the Fonzie leather jacket.
Well, that's because that was the jacket all law enforcement wore back then.
Okay.
So yeah.
But super cool, and this reminds me of like a Serpico leather jacket.
These are the uniforms we wore back in the day. And, if you look at that heavy leather coat, and they wore that all the time. And again, I can't imagine how warm that must have been with that wool jacket to the right, to actually wear that. And that was, you wore that jacket summer, winter, all the time.
Well, that looks like, not Fort Bragg. What's the not the Naval, West Point. I mean, this looks like West Point. But
Well,
the Sam Jones, I mean.
We're really proud of our uniforms. Tradition, a lot of that's in it. But as you see there with that award, we actually won the Best Dressed Public Safety Award back in 2022 for our uniforms. So
Oh, really? Nice.
I was proud about for the patrol. People are used today to seeing us in the iconic trooper hats like you see up there. Not everyone knows that we used to wear these other hats. The white hats were for commissioned officers, the blue ones for the regular troopers, and we made this change back in 1975.
Interesting. That's the one that I know. I mean, the
Right.
flat brim. So that's the white ones are what?
So that was a commissioned officer.
Okay,
so that
okay.
was like a captain or the chief, for example, the one with the braids on it was.
Okay, and what is this one then?
So that was actually a port of entry hat for a female port of entry officer back in the day.
It is a female entry. Okay, because it looks like a not WAC, Women's Air Corps, or something to that effect.
Similar.
And that looks like a park ranger hat.
So we used that for a while. We actually had an Explorer Post, and that was the hat the Explorer Post wore. So Explorer Post was a offshoot of the Boy Scouts.
Okay.
So people who are interested in coming into law enforcement, they would do that. You had a path, you could go Eagle Scouts, or you could do that.
He's an Eagle Scout.
You and I probably did driving simulators like in a trailer or something
Yeah.
going through high school. Well, this is the same version of that. But this is like a 1950s, 1960s version.
Stop. Really?
So if you look here, in the picture that you see here, you see a trailer getting pulled by an old station wagon. Being a station wagon guy, you can appreciate
You
that,
love the wagon.
right? So this is the inside of that trailer. The sides would open up. Kids dressed a little bit differently back in the day at high
just
school.
Beaver Cleaver.
But this box right here that you see is this box right here. So as you look through this device, you can do an eye test. And come this way and look at it from this side. You'll see the eye chart in here. And then they could do, distance. And you would look through here. You'd go down to the mirror, which would reflect the image back, and
Okay.
you'd see what was in here. And they could do eye tests. They could do reaction time. So, of course, back in the day, everything back then had a clutch. So as you see
Oh,
here,
I didn't even see the box down here.
you would have a light come on, and you would have to get off the gas, push the clutch in, push the brake on, test reaction times.
Unbelievable. American Automobile Association, Washington, D.C. That's right, every car
What's
had a
usually
clutch.
incredible for us is that all this stuff, we kept it. That box that you see right there was found back in the back corner of our range. And they're like, would you like this for the museum?
Yes, we'll take it.
Yes. So, and then you come down this aisle here, and, First Amendment rights are hugely important to the state and to the patrol and protecting those. But that also means sometimes you have to have crowd control. So that's what you see with some of that.
Oh, okay.
The machine that
Oh,
you see
wow.
on top is an agent pepper fog thing where they would carry it around, and as they would carry it around, they would pump this. And then the equivalent of the pepper fog or the tear gas would come out the end. I have to believe that whoever was carrying it at the time probably inhaled more of it than anybody else. It probably didn't work very well, which is why you don't see too many of them. But that's that.
I was a freshman at Colorado State University in college days, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they had the pepper spray or the gas, and I remember it burned all of our lungs. And one of the guys in Ingersoll was from Germany, and his mom called him, "Are you okay?" They had heard about.
Was your dorm Ingersoll?
Yeah.
So was mine.
No way!
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
When I was there, the football players were there, which was a good thing because they got really good meals.
Oh, yeah.
Some and everybody else got really good meals.
They were in Corbett when I was there.
So there's like the jacket that you were talking about.
That's like buying. Okay, yeah.
But I mean, this is what all law enforcement wore back in the day. The only difference is a lot of them remember the fur collar that you had up here.
Yeah.
So
Okay, yeah, what's up? Okay, there we go, the snowshoes. Okay, and I saw over there,
still some snowcats that we have because the radio towers are up on the top of mountains. Where in Colorado, it tends to snow a lot on top of those mountains. And you still have to be able to get there in the wintertime to service them and make sure you have radio communications. So back in the day, they did it with snowcats and snowshoes.
So what's the story with those snowcats? Are they getting,
Same thing. They're just newer versions. But they still have to be able to get up there and service those towers in the wintertime.
are they here for a restoration? Are they here for
No,
maintenance?
so that shop has a facility here on the campus.
Okay.
Yep.
They're- Nice.
So Jeff, you ready?
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff, let's end with this. We talked about the 1935 Ford, and we've talked about what the mission of the patrol is. So I just want to end on that. Since 1935, the Colorado State Patrol has been our family protecting yours, and our mission is to keep people safe on the road. So let's end with asking everybody out there who's watching this, do your part to drive safely, get home safe, help us do our job, and come out to the track, race us at the track. We'd love to see you. Thanks much.
Come on down, see them at the track. And also, in September, stop by. They'll be at the Good Guys doing a little autocross action. Stop by, say hello, and there you go. Sir, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. You want to take a look inside?
Yeah, get that.
You can get a picture of your dad inside.
Really?
Yeah. That mohair upholstery is, I mean, it blows my mind to think what it was like to drive this thing back in the day. Because it looks fairly roomy, right? Until you get inside. And you think about 2 guys were sitting in there. That was a long day.
Wow.
Yeah, have a seat, sir.
And I love the steering wheel too. My goodness. I love this little stick shift too,
35.
and a clutch.
They all had clutches back then, Pop.
They all had clutches. I remember the clutch. Wow.
And your dad had Fords, right? But he always wanted a Mercury?
He always wanted a Mercury, but could never afford it.
Well, you know, back in the days, the key thing on these old police cars is you buy a Ford car, but Ford sold it with the Mercury motor because the Mercury motor had more horsepower.
Oh, rip, for the police cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So cool. Thank you.
Of course. 8,900 miles.
Isn't that nuts?
That's, yeah. It's still, and these cars are all, oh, there you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
These cars all run.
Every car in here runs except for the 35 Ford.
Yeah.
And it could, but we've just taken the fluids out of it
Okay.
because it just sits here now. So, but if we put all the fluids back in it, it would start up and run too.
I'll be darned. Yeah. What a gorgeous car. My goodness. Did Ford have anything to say when Ford was picked for the car of the patrol?
You know, there's a picture over there where we have where they brought it down. I think it was a lot bigger deal back in the day. When a highway patrol agency picked that car, they used it for marketing much more than they do today.
Wow.
It's almost probably the kiss of death for some police or for some people when the car that they want to go out and buy as a police car probably takes some of the coolness out of it. Although there's an awful lot of people who love buying these old cars at the auctions. You know, like our old Dodge Chargers, we were talking about how we don't have those anymore. But Hemi powered, all-wheel drive, and they're an amazing car. The only way you can get that car is to buy an old police car because they never sold it to the general public.
Oh, with the V8.
With the V8
Because in
all-wheel drive.
In the 6, they've got an all-wheel drive.
That's it.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Because we got to take one of those up to Georgetown to do a little ice racing, right, Pop?
There you go. Get on the ice.
Anyways, Colonel, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it.
Hey,
Get a close-up right there, the badge. Love it.
I got a card here. I can give you just as you have it.
There.
It'll work. Still got a vacuum operated truck.
Oh, it does. And it works.
Yeah.
Look at the bias ply, unbelievable. And you said the briefcase was original. Are these?
Mm-hmm.
These originals of the car? So cool. And what the heck is it?
So, original era, the briefcase is actually used in the car. These are just the right era, but
Oh, okay.
so first aid kit. And then this is actually you saw the microphone and the control unit up front, but then this is the brains of the radio in here in the back.
Okay. Bias ply, some road flares.
The only thing that probably isn't too original back here is it has a current fire extinguisher in it, just a little extra protection.
And the microfiber, no microfibers
Oh, yeah.
back then. Very cool. And the vacuum hood release works. Look at the Fury. There it is. Want to tell me a little bit about the rebuild.
So this car came completely apart. Every nut and bolt on this car came off of it. About the only thing that isn't as it was when it came out was obviously we had to replace rubber things. So hoses, belts, things like that are new. But pretty much every part that you see on here that's metal came off, got cleaned up, and got put back on. So like that air cleaner, that's the air cleaner this car rolled off the assembly line.
So cool.
Radiators, everything.
Oh, you hit the switch. Very nice.
I told you these weren't particularly bright at all, but that's all they had back in the day. The stories are guys used to take aircraft landing lights and they'd put them in here, but they'd be so hot then they'd melt the domes.
And I was under the impression that not the whirligig, but they spun.
Now a lot of other ones did, but all of these they just alternated front, back, side to side. So here's one of the funny stories: is back in the day, we had to put screws in all of these. The guys would tell me, because they'd go into a cafe or something like that to have their meal break, and they'd come back out and someone had taken these because they were trophies,
Oh my God.
and they could just pop off this easily and be gone.
That's look at that. 40 pounds of oil pressure. $174 with the original door panel. So cool. All right, I got it. This and the this is 42,942 or 94,282. Colorado Highway Patrol, Colonel Bratt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming by.
Bubblegum machine on the Fury and the Camaro. Little Mustang action. Thanks, Colorado Highway Patrol. You guys rock.